It's Embert. He's a little old man, he has a story to tell and an opinion on everything. It's Embert. It's Embert.
Hello, everyone. It's Embert. Hope you are having a good day today. I'm glad to be back in the regular place where I do these recordings, which is at my grandson's house. Easter, we didn't do one because, well, we did, but we didn't do the video part. So that looked like it came out pretty good anyway. So anyhow, today we're going to do two videos. I don't want to tell you what the other one's about yet. Well, because I don't know. That's how that goes sometimes. My grandson says, "Granddad, we'll surprise you." He likes it that way because he says it's more natural. Well, I was complaining over the weekend about the drugs. And I complain about the drugs a lot. But I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to surprise you. Embert favors legalizing the pots, only the pots. And I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But what I'm going to talk about is all the other drugs. And that's going to lead you to why Embert approves the pots now. I didn't used to, and I don't do the pots, but I might if they made them legal. I don't know. I think I'm too old, but the pots has a way of helping with medicals. So it might help my arthritis. I have shoulder pains on both shoulders a lot. And my doctor says, well, yes, you're old, Embert. You're going to get arthritis. So anyhow, so a few years ago, there was a problem, and I don't think it's as bad now because it's harder to get, but I'm sure that people still do it. It's called pretend pots. It has another word, synthetic pots. And that is made of a whole bunch of things, and it makes you very high, like very high. Like if you try to get as high with that as you do with the pots, you don't need that much and you are super high, super high. Well, we can't have that because what we end up with is a bunch of people that are stuck on the pots and they don't realize how strong it is. So what I figured is let's look at the pots. So here's the thing about the pots. We know the long-term effects of smoking the pots. Basically, there's no long-term effect as far as when you get the high part going. That just lasts for a little while, and it depends on how much you had and maybe other factors. And maybe you kind of got a tolerance for it. But based on the old days, you shouldn't be able to get hooked on the pots. So that's one good thing. Another good thing is that we know, even though it's bad, just like smoking cigarettes can give you the lung cancer, so can smoking the pots. But even though they say that even a little bit of smoke you can get lung cancer, and if you quit smoking, even the cigarettes, you can still get the lung cancer. When it comes to the pots, you don't do it constantly, so it's lower risk. I'm not saying it's good for you to do the pots, but if you do, you probably won't get the lung cancers from doing the pots. Okay. Aside from that, we've had many years of smoking the pots and scientists checking it out. It's really not bad for you in the big picture. And when you compare it to things like the fentanyls that keep getting brought in, did you know all it takes is a little grain, the size of a grain of salt, of fentanyl, and you could be dead. It's not just about getting hooked on things, it's about being dead. And that's very true. Ember did some studies about that with my grandson. It turns out that the pots is better for you, but sometimes to help get you hooked, your person you get your pots from, if it's not legal in your state, you might get it from called a drug dealer. And when you do that, what happens is they might put a little sprinkle of fentanyl in your pots. So what happens is it's just a little bit in a big container, but if you're the only one that smokes it, you could have the fentanyls in it. And it's not as likely that you would die with it being spread out, but you could. But the point is, it's easy to get addicted to the fentanyls. So when people say, Amber, can you get addicted to the pots? Which nobody has ever asked me that. But if somebody asked me that, I would say, maybe you can because of what else is in it. Also, there's a thing called TLC in the pots, and that's the stuff that makes you get high. There's also the CBT, it's called, and that's the stuff that just is used. It's legal in a lot of places, like CBD oils. Those are health usually. They don't get you the stones. My point is that back in the old days, and when I say the old days, I just mean like the 90s, the pot just had a level of that TLC in it that was maybe 3 to 15%. But now they have eatables. You can have eatables and smoke the pots. Some of those eatables have 85% of the TLC in it. And when you do that, the question is still out with the scientists. Can you get hooked on the pot when there's that much TLC? Maybe. I don't know. I think you can. But there's a lot of other drugs you could be out there doing. You got the cocaines, you got the heroines, you got what's the other thing? Oh, the crack, the mushrooms. Now, the mushrooms are actually not supposed to be bad for you, but you better be careful and know that you got the right kind. And so the same with the LSDs. Now, I'm not saying you should do that either. I'm just saying it's supposed to be safe. You got to do your own research and figure that out. I'm not saying anybody should go out and do the drugs. But one thing I have learned in the pandemic with the COVIDs, a lot of people, when they got the lockdowns, they stayed at home, they beat their wives, and some wives beat their husbands. That happens, I know people who got beat by their wives. You don't tell most people because they think, oh, that doesn't make me a man because my wife beat me. Oh, but it does make you a man because you didn't hit her back. But anyway, there was a lot of domestic abusers happening and a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs. So here's the thing that's come out of the pandemic that's very bad. Aside from our horrible economy, and we got a Brandon running around, and then Putin we talked about the other day. He's trying to do the World War III on us and nuke us away like a microwave, but for people. We can't let him do that. Anyway, the point is that I don't remember the point. It was about the pots. Oh, goodness. Sometimes Embert loses his train of thought. Like I should have bought a second ticket to the train. And I didn't. And then I lost my stub. But anyway, the pots. Oh, anyhow, so here's the thing. With all what came out of that is a lot of new alcoholics and new drug addicts. Now, Embert's old. Okay, I've seen a lot of things. I am in, I was a boy during the Depression just ending and being over. And I tell you, it was a tough life, but we didn't have anything else to compare it to like today. If all of a sudden we went back to the Depression, which that could happen, you keep Brandon going, it's what's going to happen. You got to let him go. But anyway, if that happens, you will not be able to survive because you have been spoiled your whole life with those iPhones and iTVs and iPods and those MP3 players, I think they're called. I only know that because that's the sound name of the sounds sometimes that we record is MP3. So Embert's not such an old turkey after all. Sometimes I know some things. Anyhow, that's the problem. Now, when they started selling the fake pots, it was kind of legal for a little while because they didn't make it illegal yet. And a lot of people tried those out and they loved how they felt. Plus, it was cheaper. Well, here's what the problem is with that. We don't know what happens as life goes on let's say 5 years from now, or 15 years from now, or let's say that you are a teenager, you smoke the fake pots, and then 10 years later, you have a baby, or maybe your wife or your mistress has a baby. So, what happens to the baby? We don't know yet. We don't know if something from those fake pots could have a birth defect or addiction, or who knows? Maybe they'll have a learning problem. We don't know. And it would take years, like 20, 30 years at least, to start tagging them, because we got to take people from teenage to old age. And then we got to study hundreds and thousands of people in clinical studies and things to really find out, did the fake pots cause more problems? So Embert said, you know what? To hell with the just legalizing it, just make it legal for the pots. Now, I'm not a president, but if I was the president of the United States, I would tell my Congresses, let's just make the pot legal. I'm tired of all this, but everything else has to be illegal. The cocaines and the heroines and the, anything that's not safe that's over a certain limit. Because otherwise, I'd have to say you got to make the smoking illegal of the cigarettes, which, I have to say, I did smoke before, long time ago, just a little bit. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. But I know my grandson smoked for 22 years. 22 years. Think of the money he wasted. Well, he quit. He quit some time ago. It's been at least 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Now, it used to be $1 or less when he started the smoking. Now it's $6, $7, $8 for one pack of cigarettes. I don't know why anybody buys it. I don't know how you can afford it unless you have a super good job, which usually means you're smart. If you're so smart, don't smoke the cigarettes. The point of everything is they always just say to you, do everything in moderation. Now, that doesn't mean smoke a little pot once in a while, smoke a cigarette, do a little heroin sometimes. That's not what Embert is saying. Embert's saying that you're going to do what you're going to do, and it doesn't really matter what anybody says to you. If you decide you want to smoke the pots or do the heroines or do the crack, you're going to do it, right? And you're probably not going to listen to anybody, especially someone older, especially someone like Embert. So that brings me to another thing. We have a lot of problem with addiction in this country, of the drugs, of the alcohol, of all of that. You have to know that there comes a point where you have a problem and you have to deal with it. So I asked I was going to call him my nephew again, my grandson, what do we do? Where can people go? So here's what he said. He said, there is a website, Granddad, called help.org, HELP.org. Now, here it is on the screen. If I did it right, then you see it. And I'm going to go click on something because this tells you the addiction rehab process, questions, choosing the right kind of rehab, how much does it cost? But there was somewhere on here, I'm going to have to click on something to find it. That's a trusted source, it says. Maybe it was this one. Well, you see, there's different things. So, like if you were to go to Tucson, you see alcohol, drug, and other rehab centers in Tucson, Arizona. And then here's some information. And then here's some more information and rehab centers. So what I'm getting at is, and that's just in wherever I just said I was looking at. What was I looking at? Arizona. I could go back here. Embert knows how to use the internet. Don't you think I don't? It's, look, you see, you got alcohol rehab, cocaine, heroin, a rehab near you. That's the one. You go to that, and then you got to see how there's every state. So if you live in California, where there's a lot of pots going on, you could go here, and then you can find out all the places you could go. And in rehab, it doesn't always mean you have to go there and stay there. But I want you to write that down. It's help.org. I think yes, help.org. And that'll get you help with the things. So also, Embert has learned. How do I stop this? Oh, it's way over on this screen. I don't know why he gives me 3 TVs. I told him I need 1 TV. He gives me 3. Anyway, so I'm not saying everybody that does the pots needs help. And if you notice, there's no pot rehab on there. There's no rehab for the pots because science is still saying you can't get hooked on it. It becomes what's called a psychological addiction where you feel like you have to have it. And even that, but you don't necessarily have to go and stay in a drug rehab place to get better. Sometimes you could just go see a counselor or go to an AA meeting, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, or NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous. That's for the opioids. Now, I got to tell you something else, too. This is very important. Embert covers this. If you are a drug addict, it used to be back in Embert's day, if you did the drugs and you were addicted to it, you were just a worthless piece of garbage. You were a what you call a drone on society, a drag on the incomes of people. You're just a pain in the butt, basically, and you should be destroyed. Well, it's different now, and it's things like the COVIDs that have made it different, but it was getting different before that. You see, people, when they have lost their ability to cope with things, they say, well, I'm going to do something. So they have a couple of drinks and it feels good. And then they have a couple more and more and more and more. And this keeps happening to where they become an alcoholic, or they do the heroin, let's say, because heroin is supposed to be cheap. Now, Embert didn't do any of these drugs. I'm just telling you about them. And you also, there are many websites that you can go and learn about drugs that even the websites take it like, so you're going to do drugs, let's tell you about them. Instead of saying, don't do drugs, it'll tell you, if you're going to do it, here's what you need to know. That's so much different than in Embert's day. So again, when you get to that point in your life where you feel like, I got to do something and I can't help it, people have turned to the alcohol and the drugs. And when that happens, sometimes they're okay, sometimes it gets out of hand. Embert's happy to say, I lived in a time, I still live, but I lived in a time where you dealt with your problems differently. You didn't have all these options. It's a culture thing now, I guess. I don't know. But what I am saying, I don't want to lose any Embert fans because you die from the drugs. So even though I may have a different way to deliver the message, I still say don't do the drugs. If you are going to do the drugs, do your research. You really need to do some good research. And you probably shouldn't do them alone because different drugs do different things to different people, even if they already did them before. So you should have someone with you that's not doing the drugs. I don't mean a drug buddy, someone that's not doing the drugs, just in case. Because, they have things now. You call 911, they come out, they give you a shot of this narcotics or whatever it's called. They all carry it. The police now, a lot of times, and the ambulances and the fire trucks. And you can carry them too for someone. And Embert learned how to use one day. And let me tell you, it's very easy. This will make you feel good too. If you have a drug overdose, I think it's just on the opioids. That's when they can give you that narcolytis shot. Well, it's a shot, but there's also when they just push in your nose and you're knocked out like you could be dying. And it brings you back usually, a lot of times. Some people have to have it done a lot. It's very sad. They don't take it to jail after that. They try to take it to the hospital because once they use that, it just helps you for a little while. You still got to overdose and you still got to see a hospital. But even when you're done at the hospital, there's no police there waiting to take you away. That's different now than it was in the day. So again, there's ways to be careful. Now, Embert says don't do the drugs, but if you're going to anyway, do your homework, okay? So I guess that's it for today. Remember that website, help.org, and please share this video with your friends because you know why? Embert's old. So you always think old people are going to go, oh, you're a horrible person because you did this. And at the same time, I'm not going to go, oh, man, you should do the drugs. It's good for you. Oh, it feels so high. I don't do that. So I'm just saying, no things. Okay? And that's it. Now, later on, I will have another video. Until then, have a nice day and don't do the drugs.
It's Embert. He's a little old man. He has a story to tell and an opinion on everything. It's Embert.